Greetings in the love and light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andre, joined here with Robert, Fred, and Adam, and we will be talking about timelines and understanding it in the context of spiritual growth. All right. So, Robert, you want to read our first quote for today? I'll
Sure.
make it bigger for you. There.
Yeah, that helps. All right. This looks like it's from March 11th of 2004.
Yeah.
We are of the hope, as are many within your peoples, that at this particular time, those within your societies, not only of America, but of the entire globe, are able to move away from the old way of increasing polarity, war, and destruction. It is not that this pattern is a complete disaster, for it has been most instructive in terms of the Creator discovering those things which do and which do not work to the betterment of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. It becomes obvious that there are aspects to the complete lack of guidance concerning polarity that encourage that which is known by this instrument as the dark side to have a seductive value that it would otherwise not have. Be that as it may, it has been so that your planet has included a nugatory, useless pattern so many times that its entire society has been quarantined and put to one side of, shall we say, the usual timeline. It is as if time itself had been suspended for these entities while they are moving through this pattern again and again. So it is a matter, more or less, of taking back the mind from those who would keep it distracted, polarized, and asleep.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. So
You're welcome, Andre.
so I wanted to comment on this to say that my understanding, after having read this quote many times and in
Didn't take many.
context, is that what they're saying is that the usual timeline, or it's like how the usually things progress, is that people um, move along through third density, and then at some point they coalesce around either a service to self hierarchy or a service to others entity like Jesus, and then that becomes an infectious agent that then turns the entire planet either service to others or service to self. Um, and so but what's happened in our planet so far and on Mars is that instead of choosing either the service to others or service to self, people have been lost in confusion and have succumbed to the space pirates, which is what they're talking about here, and keep on. So as soon as they're kind of their civilization gets to a point where it's about to join either the service to others or service to self side, they just get into a massive war and completely destroy themselves, and then and so it's kind of becomes a useless pattern where nothing was achieved, and then they're back in ruins, and then they have to try again. So that's my take on this quote. I don't know what you guys think.
Interesting that they didn't use the word complex. They just said mind, body, spirit.
Oh, where did they? That's a good point.
Which would mean it's like outside of space time.
Yes,
And
yes.
so it's like very general, maybe almost talking about before the veil.
Well, or yeah, outside of space time. Oh, outside of the veil. Outside of the veil, which would be
It is talking about it like it's three unique qualities of mind, of body, and of spirit. Yeah.
Mm.
Like each one is something in need of betterment.
And Fred, did you have any comments on this, or should we move on to the next one?
Now, would that mean that it's pointing to each one being separate, or as it's not being a complex, or would it mean like what Adam was saying was being prevailed? Did it go into any more detail of later on in the more if we read more?
Here, if we were to
Good thought.
I wouldn't like to use the thought of separate though, because creator, it was specifying creator at the time. So creator wouldn't have a separation per se.
I think we learned in Wednesday night, Josh's group, that Ra uses the word like creator and intelligent infinity interchangeably, which was an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm. So my take on this was apparently the only mention of mind, body, spirit in this session, and that's the end of the answer here. So my take on this is that they're talking about the evolution of the mind, body, spirit as in the whole soul, not if mind, body, spirit complex, they would be talking about just the incarnation. So, and I think that their emphasis here is in which do not work to the betterment of the evolution. So war does not help with the betterment of the mind, body, spirit, because they just call it a nugatory or useless pattern.
But I thought inside of war, there's what's learned from war is like bellicosity. And I think Ra talked about how there's like these tree people that like came here to like snatch people up and just say like go into their minds like, why are you guys warring? But like there is something there to learn.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that are curious about why we are pursuing this negatory useless pattern.
Well, nobody commented on the use of the word quarantine in there yet.
Oh yeah, quarantine. Yeah, so it's true. We have been quarantined, and they mentioned that was started actually when Yahweh got involved and put the Mars failed DNA into the Earth humans.
Yeah, but doesn't that sound like what happened in 2020? Society has been quarantined and put to one side of the usual timeline.
Yes.
It sounds like that happened.
Yes, yeah, but this is from 2004. But I think that what
16 years later, that happened.
Yeah. But I think what they mean is that the usual timeline would have Earth joining either the Orion Empire or the Confederation of Planets after it's finished polarizing. And it's currently off to the side since it hasn't, and it seems to refuse to make that choice, though we have some material from the Confederation that seems to point to that the Earth has decided on the service to others trajectory, and assuming we don't, like, it's very, very low probability the space pirates will be able to win this time. It seems like the service to others people are winning.
So it's basically like a country that's been nominated to join the UN, but they haven't been voted on yet.
Kind of like that. Yeah. They haven't gone through all the preliminary steps to show that they are ready, you know? Like, for example, they're always saying, okay, we'd like Ukraine to be part of like the EU or NATO, but you guys are too corrupt. You guys have to get yourselves together into something less gross so that we can accept you as one of us. And it's the same thing with the Confederation of, like, the Orion Empire would require an absolute hierarchy with one leader that they could talk to that would be responsible for everybody on the planet. And conversely, the service to others, the Confederation of Planet, would require, in order for a whole planetary experience, that everybody have that service to others vibration, or the vast majority of people operate from a place of forgiveness, love, and kindness for all beings.
A consensus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that they could, freely come and go, knowing they wouldn't get blown up.
Yeah. Or imprisoned for not, aligning yourself.
Exactly. All right. So, hi, Benjamin Martin Lafall. Okay. So, next quote. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Sure. This seems to be a little section, Robert.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I guess I'll start with the question. This is from 2017-0401. We've had a query from the Taiwanese Law of One study group outstanding. They ask, do multiple timelines really exist in our universe? And if so, what's the spiritual significance of knowing the nature of timelines? Robert?
I am and am aware of your query, my brother, that is asked for those from the study group in Taiwan. Indeed, there are what have been described as multiple timelines for an individual or a group, for a nation, for a planet. For each is an entity in regards to having the ability to learn and to grow according to predetermined possibilities, determined previous to a certain incarnational experience or evolutionary cycle, depending upon the nature of the entity of which we speak, be it individual, group, or planet. These timelines are probability possibility vortices that contain within them a variety of ingredients that could be seen as talents, proclivities, desires, balancing karma, adventurous discovery, and so forth, that are determined in order to offer greater possibilities for growth in the seeking and the serving of the one infinite creator. That there are a variety or multiplicity of timelines indicates that at a certain point in any entity, group, or planetary process of evolution, there may be refinements or adjustments to the planned process of learning and serving that are deemed necessary if other probability possibilities occur that were deemed most likely previous to the experience of whatever entity. Thus, the multiplicity of timelines gives any grouping of entities a kind of flexibility in responding to the unknown, the unexpected, or the surprise, shall we say, for these are always qualities that are liable to spring up, shall we say, in any interaction of entities, all of whom demonstrate free will choices and the ability to change the mind or the direction or the purpose or the intensity.
Great. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome. That's fun.
Yeah. And so, well, my take on this one was that basically they're saying that you have free will and everyone has their own kind of timeline of experience. And along this timeline, they have many choices that they can take that will lead them to different timelines. What do you guys think?
Okay, so my confusion, I guess, with that is this. So we are experiencing this timeline right now. Does that mean that that is the experiential timeline that we actually are really getting, that is going to download or whatever to the Akashic record or be the the final say lifetime line of lifetimes in our in this timeline, I guess you would call it, or so that all of those probabilities that are other timelines, so to speak, are there so that we have something kind of like an egregoric ghost of an experience that is an example of something that can happen so that we can tap into it in our real timeline to maybe get in touch with a possibility, probability that we could prefer or maybe not prefer?
So it just because I read all of these before, the answer to your question is yes. We are in the ultimate timeline, each of us. Okay. Now for you guys.
I think some nations like have different timelines. They don't necessarily follow the Gregorian calendar, and I think the deep state has like their own timeline. But what really stood out to me was when they talked about desires and karma. I think that kind of shows like the base desires and karma has to be played out to the fullest extent, uh, or as much as we can on this earth. And if we as a society have less desires and less karma, the timeline could be way different depending on our consciousness.
Edward, Gregory,
Uh-huh.
hello.
And he froze.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
oh well. Hopefully he unfreezes sometime.
So,
mhm.
what I mean, I guess I'm trying to wrap my mind around it with understanding that in the grand scheme of free will, if, say, every time you make a major decision and you change the direction of your direct inline timeline, how is it that someone else is doing the same thing for their direct timeline? Are they synced together and we're all experiencing it together? It's just this is a conglomeration of it, or does that divide up into multiplicity? And if it does, isn't that kind of like like completely neutralizing the concept of actual free will? Because if everything happens anyway, what's the difference what choice you make?
There is a paradoxical truth to there not being free will in the Hermetic principles, because you can't have complete, utter free will. I mean, it has to oscillate back to not free will. There has to be some swing of the pendulum or change of the polarity from whatever perspective you're sitting in. But what you're saying though, you've had people disappear out of your life. I'm pretty sure. Like as you go through your life, your timeline is changing, and all of a sudden you don't hear from or see from people anymore. It's like they disappear. They're probably still out there, maybe, but they just aren't part of your timeline anymore. That's one way I look at it. But I think there is a truth to this whole world is a stage, and we're all just actors on it. But you're the director, you personally. So your world, you're directing everything. So everyone is here because of you, in a sense. It's your reality right now, Fred.
Yeah. I think that. Well, there's multiple takes on it, and I think that in a way, like on my personal belief, I believe that we live kind of more in an infinite universe of infinite possibility, and that is why everything that you do in your life is ultimately inconsequential except for the growing of your heart and your spiritual growth, because once you become disincarnate, you realize how much of an illusion everything is. While you are in it, though, there is kind of it's more cohesive. Like here's a relevant quote from this. about exactly what Fred was asking. This can be a difficult concept to elaborate on, for the notion of distinct and finite timelines existing parallel to each other is not quite as what we would perceive the reality of the situation. What you are experiencing in this present moment is indeed the ultimate present moment experienced by all of creation. However, the notion of timeless timelines is a useful and valid one when we look at the concept of probabilities and possibilities and the confluence and the dynamic shifting of various energies as they travel with you in this present moment. So they're saying, like, don't worry about the parallel timelines. Think about this like that. The most useful way of thinking about it is that there are possibilities and probabilities, and that you have choices about how your personal timeline will go.
I was in the last session for Wednesday at Josh's group, and Rob brought up this term plenum. There's this like raw plenum before the veil was created, and it's like that in each octave. And this plenum is like all the probabilities that could ever be or ever exist. So when you incarnate into this life, and as you're like in the life, you like realize, oh, I really like pizza. So you have a desire for pizza, or you have a desire to like become some sort of photographer or YouTuber or something. And if you don't like pursue that desire in this life optimally, and your other desires, until it's no longer a desire for you, then you have to like keep coming back, incarnating somewhere else to fulfill that desire, unless your desire changes over time and it's like no longer a desire. But there's optimal probabilities where if you do follow your gut and work out your karma and do your desires, do God's will, then you can ascend quicker, in a sense. If that makes any sense.
It did, yeah. So how many of us have had like your childhood dream, like you're thinking what you want to be when you grow up, but you don't do that? So that's kind of what you're saying in a way, is like maybe the incarnational purpose was more or less what the child was dreaming about, because they are closer to the point of the eternal. And then when we get older and older and we do things and surprises happen and we don't manifest that dream. So I wonder if you do have to somehow reincarnate to chase that again.
When I was younger, I wanted to be an attorney because I saw my parents go through like this crazy divorce, and I'm like, I will be an attorney for kids so they never have to have this bullshit happen. And then as I grew older and realized that the laws are not all that they seemed, and it's very like controlled, and it's special wordplay, I was like, yeah, that sounds disgusting. I don't ever want to be in the court system or have to show up to court every day, even if it pays a bunch of money and I'm helping people.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
playing.
I had a similar thing of feeling a certain way about a position when I was younger. And I think what that's doing is it's just pointing to you your direction that you want to go. You wanted to do that to help people. You didn't want to do it to make a bunch of money so you have a yacht with bitches. You wanted to help people.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just telling you the direction that your higher self is good. It's just giving you that desire that you were talking about. You have that desire. It's pointing to it. It's giving you a compass direction. That's what it's really doing. Because once I saw the BS of what, I had originally, when I was younger, I wanted to get into politics, and I did tip my toe in it. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I know I could not I could not do that. Just to be around those people, constantly. It's that's a difficult, and I think a lot of people dip out because of that reason. They're like, I don't want to do that. You don't want to be around that energy. So, but it gives you a direction. Like, I want to do this because I want to help people, because I see injustice. That tells you your compass point.
So here I wanted to I loaded up all of the quotes that ever mentioned plenum throughout the entire material and got us a definition here. As explored by the Confederation, represents the idea of a space that's completely filled with matter, energy, or the essence of the creator, as opposed to being empty. Key insights: plenum as the fullness of the creation. Let us gaze at the concept of prana, of breath. Your creation and mine is a plenum, a vast infinity completely full of that light which is life itself in its first manifestation. Breathing the plenum. To breathe this prana-filled plenum of air is to breathe in oneself the primal love of the creator. To exhale is to exhale all that within which is eschewed, eliminated, and cast away. In relation to consciousness, thus it is most often a conscious decision to begin to see the self as a steward of the property called consciousness, which is one not with time or space, but with the plenum of infinity, the place of the object of worship within its path. And as its manifestation of reality, it has decided to know itself, it's generated itself into that plenum, full of the glory and the power of the infinite creator, which is manifested in your perceptions as space or outer space. Raw contact. There is never a nothingness. There's always a plenum, and that plenum is the one infinite creator, love. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys.
The second portion.
Yeah, and in terms of the politics, I would like. I mean, I find I just love processing catalysts. I just love helping people forgive, love, and be kind to all beings. And so all the politicians I've talked to, like, some of them do have difficult energies. I have to agree. Like, they can get very angry and agitated and start yelling. And for some people that can be a big deal, but I grew up in that environment, so for me it's just like, oh, this is nothing. So and then I'm just like, beaming love and responding with kindness and gentleness. And I think they see that, and then they calm down almost immediately, because it is usually the most emotionally stable person who ends up carrying the room. And so, like, I've attended lots of like council meetings and things like that, and when I was first attending, like, they were pretty good, but like, honestly, like, it's a rural thing. This isn't high-end politics. There's not a bunch of bloodthirsty sharks here. So they were pretty good, but they had some jokes which I felt were in poor taste. And I sent them some emails about it, and I told them about forgiveness and love for each other. And I think it's improved. I think there's more love, there's more harmony, there's more cooperation. And so that's an option. But I know, yeah, for me personally, getting into politics, well, it's not viable, at least not right now.
Well, I think maybe you misunderstood what I meant by dipping my toe in politics.
Okay.
I from the outset of high school, I was involved in a very controversial nonprofit organization called the Right to Life movement. There's Right to Life movement in the United States, and I was involved in our local chapter. Actually, became officer. I was an officer for 14 years, president for 10 years, and that got me involved with the Republican National Convention and the committee there. And at the time, Bush was in office, so my ex and I got involved pretty heavily with the Bush-Cheney re-election campaign in 2004, and also in conjunction with Ohio Right to Life and everything, attending protests, attending political rallies, and some of them get heated. You are literally taking the horns of two animals and locking them together. Whenever you're doing anything like that, it's intentionally divisive, and seeing that where both sides are promoted to be divisive, you know, you literally call each other names. You're not right to life. You're anti-abortion. Well, you're not, pro-choice. You're anti-life. You're literally calling each other different names, and it's promoted. Protesting is promoted. Gets violent. We actually, in our group, we had a priest. One priest got arrested, but one got injured really bad. He got ran over by a car in a parking lot when we were protesting. Um, there was a couple arrests, but I mean, crazy. It's ridiculous. And to see that, and to see the fuel get putting on the fire from the politicians on both sides, the lobbying, the money. Where's the money coming from? Places get money so that they can throw aborted fetus parts in dumpsters that go to the landfill because they have money. It's insane. We had to actually petition the county to revoke their EPA waiver so they could dump aborted tissue in dumpsters. We had to petition for it. We had to prove that they were doing something wrong to get a petition. It's just ridiculous. And then seeing the attacking in the elections. Oh my God! I don't know if you guys remember the 2004 elections. I know you guys. Not everyone's in the U.S. here, but it's insane. It's cutthroat, and to be around those people that are promoting that divisive bellicosity, it's just that I don't know. Maybe not everywhere in the world has that kind of divisiveness, but at least in where I experienced it in Ohio, it's volatile. It's too much.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on too long, but
Mhm.
I wanted you to really understand what I mean. It's I didn't go to no council meetings.
Mhm. Fair enough.
I'm sure if I did, my experience would have been different, and I might have looked at it differently.
Yeah.
You were on the front line.
Yeah.
Well, I went to that election. I was one of the people at the voting. There's precincts for voting, and they were stealing votes, and they were doing it. We caught the guy that tried to vote twice. And they don't do anything. They just turn you away, and no investigation's done on it. Well, there's 88 counties in Ohio, and Mahoney County only had 1,100 precincts. So if you do that one time in every precinct in every county, you swing an election. So that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard like Texas took like 2 million votes off the illegal votes off of the ballot. So
I'd like to see if Raw or Quo ever talk about voting.
yeah, well, we could.
How they
maybe if we have time after this timeline discussion.
It's probably very STS. I mean, it's hierarchical.
Yeah. So I know that in terms of politics, what the Confederation counsels is that in order for politics to work, you actually have to know as a person the politicians. And because they're unable to decide something if they don't know who you are, like what kind of person you are, you're not making an influence on the politics. And so that's
basically you have to have telepathy in order to know what's going on, and then it's fair.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you want to have a political impact, you actually have to go and talk to the politicians in person. And that's why I attend the council meetings. I shake hands with them and say how are you doing and all those things, and send them emails. Like, they know who I am, they know what I'm saying, and so and I meet with them fairly regularly, and so that there is kind of like they understand, where I'm coming from, and that's how I have an impact. Because there's the majority of people couldn't care less. There's no other audience members in the Grey County Council chamber. I'm the only regular attendee.
Well, that's probably saying exactly what I just explained in my long spiel is, I'm going and meeting these people and being there in their presence and seeing this. I don't like it.
I hear you. And when I feel those energies, I do my best on processing that catalyst and then thinking about how I can help them process that and move closer to that service to others path as much as
then again, this was 2004, which was 20 years ago, way, way, way far away from my understanding of things now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, those were calmer times back then too.
Yeah.
Especially in America. All right, let's try to move on to the next query here.
I will be back.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to tell you all about my Summer Slam going on, but I'll wait until y'all are done.
We'll be here for a while, so feel free to join later.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to join when you want
Well,
to.
they all know me. I'm always in the school. I don't ever have time. Something just told me come on tonight, so.
Oh, okay. You're going off
And trust me, you'll love to hear this shit. This is the type of shit you want to hear. So.
All right. Well, all right. Well,
all right, I'll be back.
We got a few more timeline quotes to get through here. Okay. I have a query, Kuo. I don't know that you can answer it, but I feel pulling apart of timelines, I guess, a sorting of vibratory frequencies sees into different octaves. Can you comment on that? Robert?
I am and am aware of your query, my brother. We are most impressed this afternoon, may we say, before we begin our answer, the quality of queries. This group has always been most competent in querying, but this day is most impressive. The perception of the timelines, as you describe them, is a perception of potential realities that you have participated in within both the dream state and the meditative state, where you have allowed an opening to potential realities that your higher self has utilized in offering to you and to others like you the opportunity to experience a greater variety of challenges, shall we say. These challenges are lessons presented in symbolic form, as each entity in any incarnation presents to itself within the incarnation to be experienced at that point. However, the choices for such lessons are made before the incarnation, so that before your current incarnation, you have chosen certain realities in which to express these challenges, these symbolic puzzles that can, when untangled, reveal to you a greater perspective in your own spiritual journey. The feeling of the dissolving of such timelines is a residue of the learning of that which was set before you, so that there is no longer a need for it to exist within any portion of your being other than that being which you now are here. Thus, you are, shall we say, closing up shop so that there may be a graduation into the fourth density of love and understanding at the end of this incarnation. Is there a further query, my brother?
No. All right. So, what do you guys think of that? Did that make sense to you guys?
The gist of it, yeah, just
Okay. What it
dissolving away of, because you don't need to experience that. You untangled the puzzle, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You untangled you set up a puzzle pre-incarnation and you untangled it in the incarnation. So because of the untangling, then that timeline can dissolve.
Is that so? Then is that describing the healing of generational karma? Then
Yeah, that sounds good. Because that is a large puzzle, too. If you're talking about generational, that's incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. That's a big puzzle that you're untangling and trying to
Interincarnational.
interincarnational. Yeah.
Yeah, interincarnational karma. Yeah, because that would be different than the generational karma, which is, I think, the Old Testament Jewish people and some modern charismatic Christians believe that you're suffering for the sins of your ancestors or something like this.
What if you
To
were
live
that
generational
ancestor?
curses.
What if you were that ancestor?
Yes, if you were that ancestor, then it would be interincarnational. Yes.
Well,
Then it
then
would
that
make more sense.
how that now it's my understanding that this is a possibility that multiple aspects of your higher self can incarnate in the same timeline simultaneously. Correct?
Yes.
So how are we to know that our whole soul group and soul family or whatever, and including our real family, isn't all our own self, higher self in the little soul group that we have, just all singular digits of one higher self?
Well, technically, you're right. We are all one being.
Right, right. I understand that. But aside from the ultimate hierarchical oneness in the universe that we have and the illusion, could that be part of the illusion? Could that be part of the filter when we do this? Like finger puppets getting, put up at a puppet show where it's all connected to the same being.
Yes. Is it safe to assume that higher self implies sixth density?
Yes.
I
Okay.
thought.
So if that is the case, then that means it is probably part of a social memory complex, which
Right.
means there's
Not
a
necessarily, but probably.
consciousness units within that integration, so it has access to them. So you're experiencing other consciousnesses through your higher self down here, so to speak. What you're saying, I can see it. I can't describe it, but yeah, we're connected.
Yeah. So I think that this sensation of dissolving timelines here, it says, indicates that the lessons have been learned and they're no longer needed for those particular realities to continue. A closing up shop. So that's basically that you've made a choice, or your vibration has gotten to a certain resonance that you will no longer experience those alternative timelines.
I think
Had you made a different choice.
it's also saying that like once you've like kind of done the work, once you've done the work on your lower three chakras and you are living in your heart chakra, that the heart chakra is the dimension of knowing. So you no longer have to like desire things as much because you just know what the right thing to do is, and you live in the present moment more and more.
There's more of a flow state in a way, huh? You're like flowing better with open heart. But I note that dissolving timeline thingy, because when I do, which is kind of rare these days, but when I have smoked some cannabis and I go for a walk with my friend Toby, the tail wagger, and I'll all of a sudden get hit with something that reminds me of something I did in the past, and I have a fork in the road, so to speak. Have to make a choice. It's just a thought. It's just a thought at that moment for this one event. And I'm remembering, ooh, I chose this way before, so I better choose this other way. And I've done that, and then it like you don't have to experience it anymore.
Yeah.
It's
So
fun.
that's interesting that you say that, Robert, because I think that might be unprocessed catalyst coming to the surface,
Well, sure.
and now you are having that opportunity to process it in a service to others way, and you're actually, by doing that, you are extending your life expectancy, because people who refuse to process catalysts die, since they have catalyst overburden. And if they're not processing catalyst, then what happens is that they just shut down, and then the spirit has no longer need for the incarnation and finds an excuse to exit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how that Chinese guy lived 256 years.
Processing
was his-
catalyst.
That's what he did. He was, I mean, he basically lived in the wilderness most of the time. He was an herbalist. He did medicine and everything. And yeah, you can, he's on Wikipedia. I can't remember the name, but he served in the Chinese army in the, I think, 1600s or something or whatever. And then he kept getting birthday congratulations from the Chinese army for 200 and some years. And
Yeah.
he had 14 wives, none at the same time. He outlived all of them. I think it was 14, 11 or 14. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but people don't believe it, but there's like actual record of it. Kind of weird.
He lived
Are
a
we
service
sure he
to others'
wasn't
life.
a vampire?
Yeah. He lived a service to others' life. That's kind of the point. And like there's another Chinese famous guy, Peng Zhu. Peng Zhu, he what do you call it? He had like 48 wives or something. He lived over 800 years. And near the mountain that's now called Peng Zhu in his honor. And and then he was noted for being of service to all of these women who wanted to have children with him, and he would help them with the child rearing and all of this stuff. He was just like a great father. And when someone his exit interview when he was leaving the mountain of Pengzu, because he was like, it kind of sucks with them dying all the time. I've outlived all of my wives and all of my children, and now I'm going off to see what else there is in the world.
That's the lamentation of a vampire too.
Well, it's just Noah lived to be 900 too, right? So.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
time works different, like in the inner Earth too, and I think like Adam lived to be like 940 or something like that. And at one point in the Bible, it said Adam walked with God for a time, meaning he hopped on the spaceship, came back. Yes, he lived a normal human life. He looked like 80 or something, but really he was gone for a really long time, and he came back after like civilization had started growing, as his kids had kids and all that.
Or even the Sumerian king list, which no one knew existed until about 120 years ago or something, but where they were showing how normal lifespan rulership was occurring, and all of a sudden you go way back in history, the kings were living 43,000 years, 20-some thousand. It was like, what was going on back then?
Yep. And you know what? In terms of your vampire comment there, in theory, the same is possible for service to self individuals. If they are highly polarized service to self, they could also, and they process every catalyst with fear, anger, control, they could also live to be 900 years.
That's also terrifying. So yeah.
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 So
Okay.
there could be
Plot.
such individuals as well as the service to other variant.
And they're the ones enjoying adrenochrome.
Well, they don't even need it. That's the thing. They don't need it because it's the spiritual aspect that actually does the life extension.
Right. Yeah. They're not radiating their energy away. They're consuming it.
Yes,
internally,
exactly. They're like
focusing it.
people who have been in the presence of highly STS individuals say that there's a coldness to the room, and they feel it like their energy is being sucked out of them.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
David Rockefeller or something, one of
But
those.
it's a common term, an energy vampire. You walk into a room and you can feel the people that are sort of like they're sucking the life out of the party kind of people. They
Mhm.
might not
Yeah.
be experts at STS, whatever they're doing, but they're developing this skill whether they're conscious of it or not.
I heard something a long time ago. I'm not sure if this is something like Ra said or described, but like how to like find physical features of a service to self person. And I think they said that they tend to have thin lips and a bony nose, which you can take that as you
I
will.
mean, that's like a white person.
Sounds like Rasputin too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people say I look like Rasputin, but I think he's just a long-haired Slavic person. I mean,
Yeah, you're hiding your lips too.
well, anyways, so let's go on to the next.
Show the lips.
Yes, thank you, Kuo. I am aware that there are multiple timelines that exist. If that is true, is there such a timeline where our planet has already moved to the fourth density positive harmoniously and without much resistance? And if such a timeline exists, then how do we as a social memory complex jump to it or bring it into reality? Robert?
Yeah. Could you mute Benjamin, please?
Yeah, hold on a second. Mute. Okay, he's muted.
Thank you. Yeah, there's dogs and everything over there.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought that was your dog.
No,
Okay. No.
he's
Okay.
a good boy.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, it sounds like he's at a concert or something. Okay.
Yeah. I am Quo, and I am aware of the query, my sister. Indeed, this concept of multiple timelines has become quite a present and pervasive notion within your culture and society in recent times. This allows for individuals to imagine and to open up to the possibility of infinity and the influence of infinity in your life and what might be accessible to you and what you experience as a timeline that you live within. This can be a difficult concept to elaborate on, for the notion of distinct and finite timelines existing parallel to each other is not quite as what we would perceive the reality of the situation. What you are experiencing in this present moment is indeed the ultimate present moment experienced by all of creation. However, the notion of timelines is a useful and valid one when we look at the concept of probabilities and possibilities and the confluence and dynamic shifting of various energies as they travel with you in this present moment. Indeed, there is a reality to these possibilities and probabilities that should not be dismissed, for they can be accessed and they can be used to influence your present experience. And in this way, the question of whether there is a timeline in which your planet has made a peaceful and positive transition into the fourth density is indeed possible and true. For in this very moment, there exists the infinite potential of the one infinite creator. And within that infinite potential is the moment of positive polarity being born in full within not just your life, but the life of your entire planet and your entire population. We cannot offer any specific instructions on how to bring about or manifest this potential timeline within your current experience, except to say that recognizing and perceiving and believing in this potential is the overriding prerequisite or necessity for it to have influence upon your current experience. So, to view this timeline, to imagine this timeline, and to open yourself to it and believe that it can be born within you and within your other selves and upon your planet in any moment is the most powerful act that you as an individual can undertake in order to bring it to bear upon your reality. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister?
All right.
Wow.
We'll take that one for now. Yeah.
That's,
all right.
That said, it was like the ultimate, most important thing you can do to help make it happen.
What was it? What was the most important?
Visualizing, believing, hoping, loving the idea that the Earth is transitioning into the fourth density and the population is following with it. Not just the Earth body planet itself, but the people. The people are transitioning into and with.
Yes.
Is it true that it had to be 8% of the population for it to transition? Is that something I just heard something randomly somewhere on one of my podcasts or something?
I don't know if there's a specific number, but I know that like based on many projections, we're within this century, we're going to probably in the 2030s, there will be a 94% population decline. And so then we're just left with 6% of the population. So I guess 6 would be enough.
I guess, yeah, that kind of sounds like the reptilian agenda right there. So.
Well, it's not the reptilian agenda. It's just that we're running out of oil, and 50% of our oil goes to producing food and transporting it to cities. We just won't be able to do that anymore.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That they would have to do vertical, like hydro farming.
None of that will work because all of that requires oil. But the only thing that would work is being on land where you're growing your own food without irrigation.
Yeah. The only way I'd picture is you'd have to have huge pipelines from desalination plants, like run into all the cities. It'd be crazy, but it could work.
We don't have the energy for any of that. The only thing that would work is rain-fed agriculture. If you live in a place where you have enough rain and you have enough land to grow your own food, you will survive. If you don't, sorry.
True.
Yeah. I have a river running roughly one city block away from me right here, the Redwood River. But I can imagine if that were the case, that would be probably sucked dry by the time it got to me. People would be tapping into it all along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, do you live in a
definitely tapping?
Robert?
What?
It's a part of my Summer Slam. I'll tell y'all when y'all are done.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I'm in the prairie of Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Prairies can be tough.
I'm actually supposed to be going out there to the Mayo Clinic, so.
Yeah, Rochester.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. They have a HS unit. My mom's trying to get me in there, so.
Well, that's one of the world's best medical centers, so if they can't help you with something, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think there's any helping me. I've already been on a biologic. It doesn't really work. Like, as long as I keep working, my scars are going to keep on going on my face, whatever, so.
Well, so looking at this summary here, manifesting a harmonious transition to fourth density, embracing the infinite potential. Oh, Robert, I just wanted to mention about the prairies. The best thing, you can still set up a food forest and then have a cistern, a rainwater cistern. That's the best bet in the prairies. Okay, in response to a question about existence of a timeline, understanding the timeline, useful tool. Oh, I needed to, sorry, you know what? Include quotes.
Hey, Benny, you got some weird noise happening on your end over
Yeah. Do you know what that's about?
What does it sound like?
It sounds like
Sounds like the bad mic.
there. Like somebody's talking, but they're
It
Oh, I
sounds like
might
you're
have
underwater.
yeah.
Oh, could be people talking. I mean, I've been slammed like that way this year, this time for my behavior. So here, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay,
now it's
maybe.
turning up again.
That's
Yeah,
weird.
now I got all bars, but no, they've decided to broadcast me over the whole goddamn city from Enter Me, and other people have told me, and it's been fucking horrible.
What happened?
I'm not even gonna get into it too much, but I've been slammed this way before. I'm just being targeted right now. I'm worn out, but
Oh, like a targeted individual type thing?
well, I mean that's what killed my father too. I mean, we already knew that, so um. But now I have to leave. I'm moving into DC in the next week, and then I kept my job. I lost my housing. That's what happens when you get slammed by the county. I got slammed by City Hall for my viral video. So,
So I have quotes now. So what you are experiencing in this present moment is indeed the ultimate present moment of all creation. For in this very moment, there exists the infinite potential of the infinite creator. And so recognizing and perceiving and believing the potential is the overriding prerequisite or necessity to have the influence upon your current experience. Yeah. So that's what you guys were just saying. And to view this timeline, to imagine this timeline, and to open yourself to it and believe that it can be born within you, in your other selves, is the most powerful act that you, as an individual, can undertake in order to bring it to bear on your reality. All right. So that's that. Yeah. Benny, so would you be able to mute when you're not talking? It's just because there's a lot of noise. Okay, thank you. So are we done with that one for now then? And we want to move on to the next quote? Or what do you guys? Robert,
Yeah.
Fred?
Yeah,
I'm good.
sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, let's do that. All right. 03-11-36. Okay, there was one more mention from that session. Go ahead, Robert.
I am and aware of the query, my sister. The what we would call deep history of this planet is an interesting and varied exploration that, from our perception, does not include the distinct existence of a fourth density upon this planet, whether the planet itself was existing as an active fourth density planet or being the home to a fourth density population. However, we find that within this information, there is a seed of what we perceive as reality. For before the third density began upon this planet, there was a long and involved timeline of interactions of various entities, of various densities, and various origins that do not fit neatly into the categorization of densities, but rather found the way into this planet through the other types of thought forms present from ages in your planet's history. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister?
I think we might need more context to understand
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre, actually.
talking about.
Like entities have been created because people collectively believe in them, like egregores. Like someone prayed to this being called Diana a long time ago, and enough people prayed to her, but now people stopped praying to her, but she still now lives in this realm as like a 4th or 5th density being that can be called upon to aid.
Yeah, that's true. Like they've mentioned how, like a creature like Satan might not actually exist as an entity, but it exists in the inner plane. It's within our reality, but it's not a real being.
Well, if you were the Jews around here right
Yeah.
now, this is their keeper at me right now because they consider me the devil. So,
Can't hear you,
yeah, it
Alan.
is an interplaying thing.
You're breaking up
Oh,
there.
you couldn't hear me? Oh,
Yeah.
I said everywhere I go right now where I live, all the Jews are kissing their keepers at me because they
There's
consider me
complete
the devil.
silence.
They're kissing their keepers. Is that a good thing?
No, that's a bad thing. It means they
Oh.
consider you the devil.
We just
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm concerned about. I mean, I'm confused about the relationship of Jewish people and various divinities.
Well, I'm a
we
Jew.
only
You know
heard
what I'm
like
saying?
5 words that you
Yeah,
said.
I know there's word Jews, Talmudic Jews.
Oh, well, they're kissing. Well, there's bad service in the school because of the section, but I'll go by the window. So right now I'm living
You're
in
having a
Potomac.
negative greeting.
It sounds like there's like a bunch of talking on your end, Benjamin.
That's what's happening. So
Is there?
I'm being targeted. I'm alone. I'm being targeted right now. I know how they do it because I caught them. And here, I'll just type it.
No, Benny, what they mean is when we're listening to you talking, it sounds like herd of people around you are mumbling and jumbling around, and it kind of drowns you out a lot. But the whole time your videos or your mic is on, it sounds like a bunch of ghosts and voices muddling behind you. You can't hear it.
Oh, I can hear it. I can. Yes.
I think he's what he's saying. So like targeted individuals, they get like
Yeah.
put
Oh.
stuff into
Well,
their
they're
brain.
in their little fucking.
So
They're not
he's got
in
his
here
phone
right.
in his hand and it's coming through
Wow.
without him trying to do it.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So here, wait. I got an idea. Where's my headphones? Do. Well, they're missing now. So okay. Fuck it. But yeah, it's been going on for like 12 years straight for me. So, and most of my friends. So that's just what happens in the DC metropolitan area and pretty much across the United States, if you can hear me. So,
Well, so I found the original quote here. Benny, would you be able to mute it while we?
yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we have heard from somewhere that a long time ago the Earth was a fourth density planet. Is that right? If yes, what happened to that time the Earth again became third density planet and fourth density planet? And so Kuo is basically that. That's the missing context here. Is that that's what the answer was for? And they're saying basically it was never a fourth density planet before, but there were entities from all different kinds of densities. And well, I don't have it handy right now, but I wanted to talk about a relevant thing, which was the ascension in in groups, group ascensions that were documented by Dolores Cannon, where a community of, say, an indigenous group or an island group would reach fourth density social memory complex level of service to others, and their timeline would split from that of surrounding people, and they would kind of live in this world where everything was peaceful and happy, and the third density people could no longer find them. They could no longer interact with them. There were some indigenous tribes that this happened to, apparently. And I know there's also the in Canada there's a park. It's called the Valley of the Headless Men, but they may have gone more the service to self route. But basically, there's no evidence of anyone being there, but when people go there, they end up not having their heads. So it's a park now. It's a UNESCO heritage site.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it has a bunch of geysers, like hydrothermal vents, and so it's kind of like warmer. It's kind of like in the between the Yukon and Northwest Territories, or it's in the Northwest Territories. So it's warm enough there to live, but yeah, it's just considered a park.
So you sort of, it sounded like the so-called Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch is one of those beings that exists but is not really visible.
Yeah, well, I think the Confederation material does touch upon the Sasquatch, and they say that what's happening there is that the Bigfoots are simply highly psychically attuned. They have extremely good psychic abilities, and they can feel your presence kilometers away. And so they can easily evade you way before you get anywhere close. And since
That
they live
makes
in
sense.
these dense forests, it's like it's hard to surprise a Yeti or a Sasquatch. They have to be very preoccupied doing something else to not have noticed your presence coming close to them.
That's funny. I just had the first dream I've remembered ever having in a long, long, long time just the other night, and it was Sasquatch was in it.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just had a friend just this week tell me that he heard a Sasquatch not far in our area where he heard some knocking and then a tree falling. I thought maybe someone chopped down the tree, but he insists that this was a Sasquatch. Well, he says that
I've
there's
never
been many
seen
sightings.
I've never seen anything like that, but I personally know two people that did see it right down the street, actually down the railroad tracks here from my house, probably about 15 years ago. So, I guess it could be anywhere, really, technically, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that there's also higher density entities like what do you call it? Like fourth or fifth density entities that can appear um, to people, like because their form on their own planet, they could have been from a bear or a yeti type people. And then there's also thought forms. So thought forms are actually they arise from the desires of the people watching them, or and so basically if there's a group of people that really want to see, say, some extraterrestrials, or they really want to see a Yeti, then they can manifest a thought form of Yeti that they will be able to see and that will be able to interact with them. But it's just a thought form.
Well, we need to direct that thought forming to the creation of the fourth density, like it was saying in a previous reading.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Isn't that kind of the same thing that they're saying to when you get your congruent energy together, just like Don and Carl and Jim did, the energy comes to you. So even if it's a thought form, it's that energy is going to be attracted to that, correct?
We're not creating energy. It's already in existence, in a sense. Yeah, so it would be an attractive thing, attracting.
So then that if you're going on the as above, so below, everything kind of works similar in same ways, then it would seem to be there would be an attraction point to the point where a buildup of, say, positive energy would be accumulated with all of the attraction to the point where something tries to neutralize it because you're getting its attention, and the universe kind of wants to go into balance. So that's when we have negative greeting from. Is that my understanding of it?
I think that negative greetings are, well, I mean, they say that they're of at least two different types. One, the more common kind of negative greeting is just where a person has a part of themselves that they haven't learned to forgive, love, and accept. Like, say, for example, like programming from their parents or their peers that like are saying bad things about them in their head. And so like sometimes this is just a person doing it to themselves, or because they haven't disabled this programming, or learned to forgive and love it and accept themselves. So that's the most common kind of negative greeting. Then there is negative greetings which are spiritual in nature, of a fourth or fifth density entity. So the fourth density entity, what they will do is they can't give you new thoughts, but what they can do is they can blow them out of proportion. So you may go on a tangent, and then the tangent gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it seems like so much, like when it's a little thing, it just seems to be such a big thing, and it's blown out of proportion. So that would be a fourth density negative greeting. And then a fifth density entity would be able to inject some thoughts and new tangents. And so, and the solution for all of these, of course, is that forgiveness, love, and gratitude, and recognizing that we are all one.
So is that then what they mean by when somebody's possessed, they go so deep into the exaggerated whatever mountain out of a molehill type thing?
Yes.
That they make themselves so susceptible to negativity that it just allows it to reside uninhibited.
Yes. So basically, people who are prone to fear will attract negative entities. If they are of the manipulative, fearful persuasion, then they will attract Orion entities. Like if they're kind of a service to self designation, where they're really hardcore going after everything for me, and or purity, or bringing order out of chaos. Order out of chaos is the motto of the Orion Empire. They're bringing order to the world. That's how they see it. And so that they're dividing themselves from that which they see as unacceptable. And whereas, but the majority of people would be more in the sinkhole fearful type. So the sinkhole fearful type is just afraid of stuff and then just reacting to it, and then trying. They're afraid, and then they feel that they need to pursue a set of actions in order for their survival. They're kind of constantly in fight or flight mode. And those kinds of people that are constantly in fight or flight mode, those are the food of the space pirates, because they're very easy to manipulate by space pirates, because they can just inject an idea here, push on them. They're like push button robots when they're in fight or flight mode.
Would you then say that most people are probably a combination percentage of both of those types, if that's the type that you want to say that is what's happening?
Well, I can't. I think that like possession or something is like, or even the spiritual manipulation is relatively like more on the rare side. But they tend to go, like the space pirates tend to go after more people in positions of power, because they can get them to say create a war or something like this, and that will give them lots of food for their minions. So they're always trying to provoke war and provoke fearful thoughts, and because war is simply the most effective way of increasing the amount of fear, pain, and suffering in the world, which is their food.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I know that historically Europe has been and the Middle East have been the most susceptible to the space pirate influence. Just judging by the number of wars.
What I found to be a sort of interesting coincidence or coinciding thought with the Middle East, in that it's such a tumultuous area, always in turmoil, constant, seems like, for thousands of years now that we know of. And that area, the Middle East, the Dead Sea, is the lowest point on planet Earth. So it's the place on Earth that is nearest the core of the Earth is where the most turmoil is happening too.
And look at the ley line locations too.
Yeah, but that ley lines are less you're less able to show that to an unbeliever, let's say. I use the Dead Sea as an example because you can't disprove that. It is the lowest point on Earth.
Yeah.
So they're living the lowest point.
Yes, they are.
There, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Benjamin was here earlier, and so well, I don't know if he has something on it, but I know that Talmudic Judaism is very well. Basically, it's based on the rejection of Jesus Christ, and they're just doing the opposite of what Jesus asked. So Jesus has to forgive and love, and so they have like anger and resentment, and said, "Be kind to your neighbor," and they're genociding and killing them. And so it's just kind of like everything the opposite of what Jesus, what would be the opposite of what Jesus would do. What Jesus wouldn't do. That's what they're following. And they've actually been very successful in influencing Western culture through the universities. Figures like Nietzsche and Freud and Karl Marx. They were all Jewish people who are very popular amongst Europeans. And Nietzsche, Freud, and Karl Marx, they're all based on exactly the rejection of Jesus Christ and his teachings. Okay, so I am going to try to create a compendium of Dolores Cannon's books to try to get some more timeline information for us.
On that last topic, I was thinking about like Earth, might have chakras, and like I'm not sure where all of them are, but look to see what chakras near that area too.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to also. It's like when I lived in Hawaii, they were saying, oh, this island you're on is like the heart chakra. And then you hear people, other parts of the world say the heart chakra is over here. And I don't know, I don't know if anyone knows that answer, so to speak. It would be nice to know that, though. You're right. Yeah.
I think L&L Research, they ask questions that could be relevant 1,000 years in the future and 1,000 years in the past. Have you ever heard that?
They can't tell you the now.
But they ask questions that would still be relevant then and before. Like that's how they base their questions. Like they have a bunch of questions, but they weed a bunch out if they don't meet those criteria and some others.
Wow, I've not heard that.
So, did Dolores Cannon specifically mention the raw contact in any of her lectures?
No, I think they were independent. But they came upon much of the same material, even though they didn't know about each other. Okay, so I got a few more quotes here from Dolores Cannon this time. Conditions, each probability. Okay, conditions and situations and probabilities of the planet. Each probability that comes into being, that particular folder will open to do the process, whatever it takes, so that a multidimensional situation becomes the probabilities and possibilities. There's more than one timeline on this area, and there's more than one event occurring. And the events are occurring simultaneously, and therefore it depends on which timeline you're on to which folder you're going to see open.
Basically, what dream are you in?
Yeah, basically. So I think it's kind of similar to the kind of timeline that we've been talking about, at least from the personal perspective. Because yeah, exactly. What folder will you open? What choice will you make? What timeline will you go on? And I know another concept that's mentioned in both the Dolores Cannon material and the Soul in Between Lives material by David Newton um, is, or Michael Newton, sorry, Michael Newton um, is the tapestry of life. And in the tapestry of life, there is a timeline of each person's life, which is a thread of their life. And then that thread is, and everyone's thread. So say, for instance, you guys, so we would be part of a pattern where every Friday our threads meet together and intertwine for a little bit and then move apart for the rest of the week, and then you guys are twining with whoever is in your life, like Robert has his dog and like other humans, and so for instance I'd be like twining with my family or whatever, and
Like
then
in The Sims, you're playing that little house game, and we're all playing our own house game or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, everyone's playing their own house game and church game and whatever, and so like that's how your life line, your timeline, or your time thread looks in the tapestry of life, and then where it is in the future, it's kind of like more open ended. Where's your thread going to go? It's like there's multiple possibilities.
So, okay, with all this timeline and it being this moment being the real actual moment, I had a thought, and I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in the gearbox, but if that's true, then why in the world would in 1853 there had to have been a fourth density exchange with Abraham Lincoln? Why did that have to occur if we in the present moment are making different timelines and reside in that timeline? Why would there be a necessity for that to have occurred? Is it just to purposely change this timeline?
So, to answer your question, it was not a necessity, but it is in the past. Now, the person who was incarnate in Abraham Lincoln's body made a choice at some point that they were like, I can't do this. Someone higher than me must come and take over my body and do this for me on my behalf. And that is when the other person walked in and they became a walk-in. We recently in I think Adam was there at the Tuesday Seattle session. Someone was saying how they had gone to a place where someone was pouring their heart out to them because they were on the brink of committing suicide, and the person felt that they were incapable of dealing or responding appropriately, and they begged for someone else to step into their body and answer instead. And that is exactly what happened. And there were some repercussions, but she's back to her normal self and doesn't remember what happened during that period of time. And so, I mean, like she was in the background. She doesn't know. She doesn't remember what was said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, so that's kind of like a minor walk-in, but it's based on the free will of the person.
So wow, that triggers another question. I'm sorry to be asking so many questions.
Sure. Go ahead.
But so when someone can't remember details or even general ideas around a very, very volatile argument or explosive dramatic event, might that be because something negative came in and was doing exactly what you're saying, but only instead of STS?
I think that's a lot of emotions. Sometimes you have certain emotions going on, other parts of your brain shuts off. So I've had that happen too, where like I had the love of my life. We broke up, but I only remember like bits and pieces of like flashes that I don't even know if are real or not because I thought about it so much. But some some words were spoken. Something could have gone better, but it happened the way it needed to happen, and I can only love that because that's where I'm at now.
I was asking, it just brought to my mind, and thank you for sharing that, Adam. But in one experience, just one, um, there was an entire evening, an entire event, an entire orchestrated event, not a date or anything, but it was like a you know family involved, evening spent together, going out and doing on purpose, and no memory of it from the other person. Like I'm trying to remind this person of something, and there's no recollection of the entire experience.
Well,
And
it happens for a
I don't
variety of
know.
reasons.
Yeah, I agree, but
I mean, I don't know if there was alcohol involved. Then that
yeah,
would be why.
but you would still remember before and planning it and
Not
going.
necessarily. I mean, depends. If there was a lot of alcohol, it could have wiped the memory before too.
My parents remember things in different order in my childhood than I do, and I find that really kind of strange. Uh, like, I don't know who to believe. Like, that's how I remembered it happening, but
Yeah, human memories are known to be extremely error prone. Like, that's why witness testimony is not very highly regarded. Because, like, I mean, they did that study or whatever. Like, something happened, like a plane fell apart in midair or something, and then they asked people that were witnessing it because this was part of a show where like it was an accident that had happened, and they asked different people, and everyone had their own version of what happened. And then like what really happened based on the black box was just limited to a very small percentage of respondents.
when I had my awakening, I uh, basically blacked out and don't remember it, other than it was eternity. But my part of my mind is just like blocked a lot of parts of that off. Like I don't remember actually experiencing it, just the observer part. So weird things like that can happen too.
I feel like I've lost years of memory with a certain woman I was in relationship with. It was like PTSD just being with her, you know.
Gosh. Wow.
And I wonder about that too. Does that have to do with choosing a different timeline to go down when you make choices in your life? Are you also choosing to not remember things that are not in line with that vibration?
I think you're right on the money, Fred. It's basically things that no longer serve you. You don't necessarily need to think about them anymore. You don't need to remember them.
Because I run into that when I am sometimes forced to see pictures, photographs from back in the day when the kids were little, and it's kind of a shock, like Robert said, like a PTSD type shock, because I remember after seeing the picture and like, oh yeah, we went to Pine Tuning. I forgot about that. I don't have any memory of it other than the shock value of knowing that it happened, but I don't really remember it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's episodic memory or memory of life events. And it doesn't seem to be as highly prioritized in males as it is in females. Generally, females have better episodic memory recall, at least from my experience. I know my wife remembers things way better than I do.
They remember the clothing you were wearing, what color it was, yeah.
And that was my other concern because my ex, when our whole marriage, if you said January 16th, 2009, she would go, okay, that was whatever day of the week. That would have been during this time, this was happening. She would figure out and remember exactly what was going on. And to have the same person completely forget entire events is really odd.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, if there was a lot of alcohol involved, I think it's possible.
At times. At the times when I'm saying she had the memory like that, that was
like 20 minutes or so.
the times that.
Is that Edward?
Yeah,
He's on mute.
Ed is muted, but I can
That's
hear him.
bizarre.
There's some strange anomalies happening today.
It's all Benny's fault.
Ed, can you hear us? Because I can't mute him since he's not muted.
Say that hi to these guys. And, then it'd be better.
That's crazy.
That is so weird.
I can just the 3 dots in his square, the EG square. There's 3 dots in the right-hand corner, upper.
Oh yeah.
You can bring his volume down to 0 there for yourself.
Oh, I see, but you can't do it for everybody.
Right.
Okay, well, I can kick him out for now. I don't think he's really paying attention anyways.
Yeah, he's with somebody else.
Hold on. Kick out.
Benny left. Where'd Benny go?
Oh, well, I think Benny's reception isn't very good.
Oh.
Okay. Anyhow. Okay, so.
Didn't mean to derail everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
You did not derail anything.
Okay. So let's see. There's another quote here. I will just post the quotes in the screen here.
I think it's valuable when we can share such things with each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And Fred, you've had a lot of interesting, odd things.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that I didn't realize. I know everybody has things happen, but until you don't know until you start talking to people and telling them stories. Say, hey, by the way, did you ever have this happen? X, Y, Z. Holy shit! What? There's like disbelief, and then to understand it, like, dude, that's only one story.
Right.
That I have like a book of them, and then to understand that that's not normal.
For you it is. For you it is. Wow.
For me it is, right.
I had a curious occurrence happen last week sometime. Because I live in this small town of like 14,000 people, and there's a Lutheran church about 3 blocks away from me, a Catholic church about 4 blocks away in the other direction, and they ring their bells. So every hour from 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m., they ring the church bells to announce the hour. And I'm serious, they do. Do 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 bong 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 for 3 o'clock, So anyway, I'm walking with Toby, and whenever I hear those bells, I do a mantra with the bell. So I'm using the sound to emanate this mantra into the town. And it's every time they do that. So I was walking with him and the bell started. I started the mantra, and all of a sudden, boom, I heard the last bell. I missed everything in between, and I was like a block and a half away from where it began. And I was like, wow. It was like alien abduction, lost time episode. I just missed just walking. I'm just,
you know what it sounds like probably happened is exactly what we're talking about, where you changed your vibration so much, you went to a higher vibrational state. And you probably, if somebody had been watching you, they might have probably shit themselves to have seen what was actually happening in their frame of reference. Well, who knows? You could have had a Merkaba around you that was your Merkaba for when you travel, when you project. It could have, you might have disappeared. You might have done a Philadelphia experiment. Who knows?
Or I collapsed and died in one timeline, and I'm in another one all of a sudden. Yeah.
My phone's overheating.
Oh, and there's one thing we haven't discussed today yet is Mandela effect. Have you heard of Mandela effect?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a strange one.
Yeah. So where there's a bunch of people that believe something, but then the majority or the fact checkers is like that's something else. But it's like a historical something, not like they're trying to kill you, but they're saying it's good for you.
But
yeah,
there is a famous one that fruit of the loom emblem, the cornucopia with the fruit coming out of it, used to be on our underwear labels. And people are swearing they saw it with the cornucopia, the fruit. And yet when you would ask the Fruit of the Loom company, they would deny it ever existing. But somebody researched in depth and found out it's a legal issue. They're not allowed to say they did that for some reason.
That they put their logo on the underwear?
That they used to do this and they're not allowed to anymore. So
that's weird. I mean, there's lots of logos on underwear.
It doesn't make sense really, but that's what.
Yeah.
Just
hey Ed, how are you doing?
Hi, Ed.
Can we hear you?
Can you turn my sound on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, guys. Yeah, it's saying I'm muted on here for some reason. I don't know why.
It says you're muted. Yeah.
It doesn't hear you. I can still hear you. You can hear me. How's that work?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, it's just earlier this happened, and we heard you chatting with your friend or something.
I thought it was muted. I wouldn't know, but
Yeah, exactly. It looked like you were muted.
Sorry, guys. I thought I was muted.
Yeah. So did you have any comments on the timeline discussion we've had today?
Okay, so the whole Fruit of the Loom thing, like I've also wondered why the hell with the cornucopia, we have to go to the horn part, being the thing that's hidden.
What's the purpose?
Why is that the thing that they've had to remove that they don't want to talk about? Why not?
I'm having a hard time understanding him.
Yeah. The audio isn't very clear, unfortunately.
Sorry, okay, don't worry. No, I just wondered why the horn thing in the Fruits of the Loom emblem. Why the horn thing?
Why the horn and the Fruit of the Loom? Yeah. I think that's just how the cornucopias are usually depicted.
No, I'm saying why was that the thing that they're denying was ever there? Why would they remove it? What the reason is there for that?
I know. Why would they want to deny that? I don't know.
There, Fruit of the Loom. There, it has the horn.
I can answer the question. I'm sorry, guys. My phone is overheating.
Oh, Mandela effect wiki. Oh, they don't have a cornucopia?
That's what they
and Robert, I'm sorry, I missed. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
I missed what you were talking about with the cornucopia thing, Robert. But just so you know, and this happens a lot of times with corporations that this Mandela effect happens with. It is a marketing scheme. They realized very quickly that they could capitalize on this paradoxical logo change that happened over generations, and they buried it as good as they could. They did a good job, but there are people all over the place that have old clothes that have the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia on their stuff and the advertisements. You look at the ads from the 50s and 60s and stuff, like Popular Mechanics or whatever, that have Fruit of the Loom ads. There's a cornucopia in it. It's available. It's just hard to find because you have to have antique literature But it was a marketing scheme. It was actually admitted by someone who left Fruit of the Loom that was in their sales and marketing department they knew about it. They were just really holding on to it because it garnered them sales. They got like the first year it was brought out, their sales went up like 20%.
Yeah.
So
here it is.
when a corporation can latch onto that for a marketing gimmick, they're gonna do it.
Here it is. I don't know if you guys can see it. These are the old Fruit of the Loom stuff.
Yeah, I had some.
It's on the underwear.
Yeah.
It's on the jeans. It's on this label. There you go. Someone found the old stuff. So you're right. They just lied.
I'm not saying that that's that way with everything, but I'm just saying when you see a corporation doing that, beware. Don't jump on the bandwagon.
Oh, it says. Oh, these pics do not prove the Fruit of the Loom logo was not a cornucopia. What? False. Never been a cornucopia.
Yeah.
Okay. They're saying those are fake images. Okay. Well, it's one of those things where
I'll have to look through my old National Geographics and see if there's a Fruit of the Loom ad.
Yeah. So, and that's an interesting one as well. But I think that the Confederation focus seems to be on what's useful for our spiritual growth, and for what's most useful for our spiritual growth is actually just thinking about them as decisions that we make in our personal timeline. That prunes where we could go. Kind of if there's a decision tree, and then we prune off some decisions and go to some others.
Look towards the bottom there. Hey, Fred, it mentions crystals down there.
Crystals? You like the crystal choice?
Well, crystal, Fred's investigating.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
What does that do with crystals?
It's in the timelines. You just record the memories into the timelines in the crystals. This is the technologies. Yes, the timelines are in the crystals. These passages suggest a relationship between timelines, memories, and crystalline technology. This Confederation speaks of crystals as tools for storing and amplifying energy, including thought forms and memories. The ideas of recording memories into timelines within crystals could be seen as a way of preserving experiences or information across different realities, a concept that aligns with the Confederation's teachings of using crystals for spiritual purposes. Crystals are understood to hold vibrational imprints that can transcend time, accessing past, present, future energies. This perspective reflects the Confederation's view that consciousness and matter are interconnected, and physical objects like crystals can serve as conduits for the metaphysical processes, including the anchoring or retrieval of information across different timelines.
Okay, has anyone ever heard of a time crystal?
What's the time crystal?
A time crystal is a thing that appears randomly in physics when you get basically it's like a particle that kind of vibrates inside a crystallized structure, but it doesn't form the bonds properly, so it kind of like vibrates in its position, like bouncing around, and it kind of like gets to the point where it doesn't properly interact, like it doesn't probably track with how time works for the rest of the atoms. So they use it for lots of experiments trying to work out how time works. And apparently you get these things forming lots and lots of quartz, but you never know that it was there because you came down to the actual vibration inside the crystal. Can you all hear me?
It's a bit muffled,
No.
but yes.
You can?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea being that because of the fact that the atom isn't bound the way that all the rest of the crystallized structures are, it kind of bounces inside this little blob, and it kind of gets to the point where it removes itself from linear kind of time as you perceive it. So it's very difficult to find where that atom exists, even though you know it's there. So they run those experiments, and they make them like little nano scale, like piezoelectric crystals, so that they can actually run experiments on them. Really, highly controlled situation. But if what they're talking about, that little vibrating atom inside of quartz crystal could essentially create some kind of link across time as we know it, because it exists kind of outside of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if they're talking about just vibratory energy being the information that's taken in or out of the crystal, like the timeline information, the memories or whatever that are stored there, yeah. If they're stored there in a vibratory sense, and that little time crystal, that little vibrating atom that's just out of phase with the rest of them, is a link across all of time, the same way that, say, a photon doesn't experience time. Who's to say that that isn't exactly how what they're talking about works in like a physics sense?
Okay, so let me just break it down for people in a simple way. Here, time crystals are a state of matter first theorized in 2012 and realized in 2016. Unlike ordinary crystals, which have a structure that repeats in space, time crystals have a structure that repeats in time. This means that the system shows periodic motion without any energy input, essentially moving in a time dimension while remaining stable. So it's a fascinating manifestation of quantum mechanics.
I got a comment real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the year it was first theorized.
Yes, 2012.
2012, that was the projected year of transition into fourth density.
100%. That's when the timeline split, man. That's when the Higgs boson, one world got fucked. We managed to survive. Here we are. Happy days. Go us. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
That's where it became, we had greater access to time space. We're not stuck in space time as much.
Well, it's not just that. We would pass that point where now we're in the harvest, right? We're not just preparing for, we're in. So at that point, the fourth density information is going to be coming down.
Right.
That's it, mass downloads, man. Like what is it? No human ever invents anything. We never create anything. We never come up with anything. All we ever do is have trickle down, fed to us at the level that we're spiritually at.
It's amazing.
You're constantly discovering and rediscovering.
Yeah, Jupiter mind, man. We all know everything.
Yeah, here's video of the first video of a space-time crystal. So I guess they're just looking at it, and it's doing this without energy and input.
And it has
that's
nuts. It's just
it doesn't exist in a crystallized structure. It exists in a time matrix of that structure. It's like a tesseract in real life.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
How cool is it that you guys know me, right?
Yeah. And so, we just got a 1 minute left, but I wanted to give a brief mention to the Montauk Project and Project Pegasus. Are you guys familiar with those?
Oh, yeah.
So,
you guys,
Pegasus.
right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you said there, Ed.
I assume you guys have gone through Project Looking Glass as well.
And Project Looking Glass, yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking alternative timelines in 2012 and the split and everything, that one's got so many legs, man. Like that is a fully standing structure. That's not a theory. That's something like I'm fully like, what?
Yeah, Project Looking Glass, they were using a TV to look through time.
Well, it's more like, can I just say, the thing when I was looking at it, the thing that blew my mind is it was so similar to that Kesprov mirror that Fred was talking about ages ago.
What kind
Yeah,
of
the Koskov mirror is like a Russian invention that allowed people to see the future.
Kroskov mirror?
It's not. We're seeing the future necessarily. It's for more accurate remote viewing.
You might
okay.
view it, yeah. Koskov mirror, is it? Koskov?
Kozurev?
Kosarev. Its intention. Its intention was basically the same thing as what the original intention of the pyramids were. So you could astral travel. Just it put you in the space where it made it super duper duper easy to just pop out once you go into your meditation. Just made gave you like a permission slip to just go.
That's what I'm trying to make my shack into, man.
Cool. So, anyways,
What I was going to say is the brilliant comparisons between the Koskov mirror, which are these spinning circular spheres spinning around a guy inside the middle that's seeing something, and the Project Looking Glass technology, which is concentric spheres spinning around each other with some guy in the middle having visions. Right? They're the same exact tech, just realized in a different way.
So, yeah, quickly here. Confederation perspective on time crystals. Time is an illusion, cycles of repetition, non-equilibrium states. And for Kozyrev mirror, is a device named after Russian astrophysicist Nikolai Kozyrev. Consists of a concave, spirally wound metal sheet, often made of aluminum, designed to reflect various forms of energy, including light, heat, and other more subtle energies Kozyrev theorizes exist in the universe. The concept behind the Kozyrev mirror is rooted in Kozyrev's idea about the time and physical properties. Could be harnessed and manipulated. Time is a physical entity. Kozyrev proposed that time is not just a passive backdrop of events, but an active force that have physical effects. Reflected energy. Kozyrev mirror is designed to focus and reflect subtle energies, including as time flow. When a person sits inside or near the mirror, it is believed that they can experience altered state of consciousness, enhanced psychic abilities, and psychic phenomenon of remote viewing. The Kozyrev mirror has reportedly resulted in increased occurrence of psychic phenomena such as telepathy, clairvoyance, and remote viewing. Participants described experiences of altered time perception, expanded consciousness, connection with non-physical realms, and Confederation. Yeah, go ahead.
Fred's going to be in his shed.
You're gonna put one in your shed?
No, Fred is.
Oh, Fred has one in his shed. Okay, harnessing.
I don't have one yet.
Yeah.
You don't have one yet, eh? Okay. Well, all right. So it's 9 o'clock, guys.
Out bits of marble and chisel. Plans, dude.
So, anyhow, whichever timeline you're in, you are in the present moment of all creation. And so, one of the other things that I found is that most of the timeline books that I've read, that if you go forward in time right now to say 100 years from now, you will experience a simpler world than if you were to stay in the present and move towards it. Because what is actually happening is that in creation, time as such is not the thing that matters. It is the increase of entropy or complexity or information growth that matters. And so the creation will know more by the time you get there if you go sequentially in 100 years. And that is why the future will be different than what you psychically perceive, or even if you were to travel there with the Montauk Project or Project Pegasus or the Time Looking Glass. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's why you can't predict the future, is because it's this entropy, and there's only God has any chance of knowing the decisions of everything in creation.
The way I see predicting the future, is you're only ever going to get a quantum probability
Yeah,
of that.
exactly.
Yeah, right. And whatever like specific things you put into whatever divination or prophetic, whatever you use, you know, those very specific things are going to give you a very specific quantum outcome that you'll receive. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And if it does mean it's going to happen, then free will is a load of bollocks, and that's not what the law of one teaches.
Yeah, free will is real.
It teaches that free will matters. And if that matters, yeah, then your free will decides what quantum probability comes into actualization. You know, that's why we're here. That's why we're creators. Yeah, because our point is to choose which quantum probabilities these things fall into. Yeah, and that's why like, you know, it's split into every single time choice, blah 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 blah. Just make a whole new universe. Which one you pick matters. Because that's in the timeline. You know? I think that a lot of time people can get kind of lost in this and it can become solipsism very quickly. The law of one isn't solipsism.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the divine in all beings.
We don't all get our own personal universe. That's not true. Every single one of us is part of one universe. Yeah, is a different thing, but we do not get our own universe. That is solipsism. There's no other way of viewing it. If that's how it is, then that's how that is. But that's not.
I think
that's
that
not
we all
right.
get our own timeline, though.
No, we don't. We can't. Otherwise, it's solipsism again.
No. I don't think that there's anything against solipsism in the Confederation material. In fact, the opposite.
Absolutely separate.
Because service to self individuals believe they are the creator and thus have complete control over the creation because they identify with the creator. So I think that I know that who rejects solipsism is actually the Church of Satan, ironically enough. And because they feel that then you would feel that you are one with everybody, and then you won't be able to hate your enemy like they want you to.
If you want to like this, like, you know, we all get our own personal timeline, and you know, whatever choice you make, there's another whole timeline that happens, like a choice.
So, Edward, I think you weren't here for it, but basically, one of the things I mentioned earlier was that we live in an illusion, and ultimately the only thing that matters is how much we grow our heart.
No, I agree. I agree totally with that, dude. We all live in a shared illusion. We don't live in a personal.
It's just that the contributions that we make to this reality are an illusion because of the infinite timeline thing. The only thing you carry on is the love that you have gained.
Why not exist in your timeline?
Okay. Well, all right. So with that, any last remarks, guys?
Do that. But so do I not exist, dude?
No, everyone exists.
I think he just broke his ego because, like,
You have
I'm
to
the
exist one
greatest,
timeline.
Yeah. Well, you are the infinite creator, my friend.
So are you, but in one timeline, not in your own separate one. Otherwise, I don't exist in your one, and you don't exist in mine, and that's not how it is, dude. We both exist. Otherwise, free will doesn't matter.
Actually, it matters more, or it actually matters when you're able to make choices on your own timeline.
Of course, dude. I agree, dude. But if you can't make choices in a timeline with everybody else, then those choices don't matter.
Exactly. They don't matter. That's true. They don't matter to anyone other than you.
Your one, yeah, on your own, there's separation in pure form. It's kind of intolerable.
You aren't actually influencing anyone else. You're influencing yourself. That's how it goes. That's why people fail at influencing others until they've learned to grow within. Okay.
So is there any way, I'm sorry to ask another question, but is there any way then that since it says that they said in the quote reading that those timelines are accessible. It specifically said that. I remember that. Is that accessibility sometimes something that can possibly interfere with maybe the emotions that catalyze things in our current timeline, since we're having a shared timeline?
It did say they're accessible and usable. You can use them.
So this allows for the individuals to imagine and to open up to the possibility of infinity and the influence of infinity in your life and what might be accessible to you and what you experience as a timeline that you live within. So it's a personal timeline.
Huh.
Yeah. It's only you. I mean, ultimately, what you remember when the veil is lifted is that it was just you all along.
It's all about you, Fred.
Yeah, because we're all one being.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimately. I mean, like you say, when the veil's lifted, it's just one of those paradoxical things, man.
That's right. And I just want to say, go in peace to love and serve the Creator. And
Amen.
I have to exit. Toby's crying. I gotta go.
Okay, all right. And so we leave you in the love and in the light, as we found you, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of one infinite Creator, the one within you, my brothers. Adonai.
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 Thanks, guys. Thank you, Andre, for hosting and everything. But my phone is like burning up